All right, welcome back to the podcast. My name is Doug Sandler. That is me with Turnkey Podcast Productions. And that guy over there, that is Mr. John Browning. Welcome back, John. I don't even know where I was going. Welcome, John, to the Building Your Life podcast. We're building a life, not just a portfolio here.
That's right. Yeah, good to be back. Good to see you again. And we are set to send this one out on tax day, so everybody's going to be in a bad mood, or maybe you're in a good mood. Maybe you got to return.
It could be a good getaway day. And speaking of getaway days, I just bought an old vintage Airstream. It is now sitting on my driveway that I'm renovating in the process. And I'm thinking about retirement and retirement in that Airstream. It might have to sit in my backyard because I'm not sure I'm ready to trail it anywhere as I'm retiring. It's a big vehicle, huge.
Yeah, you got to have something to pull that with, but you've got something, right? So
Yeah, I got an old 67 F-250 to pull my 77 vintage land yacht. I think it's what it's called. It's crazy
yeah.
how big this thing is. I'm just excited to get digging in and get working on it because it is a project that it's probably at least a year-long project that I'm about to get into.
And see, you probably really enjoy that though, right? You
I
like that.
do. I do. It gets frustrating because there are so many things that the previous people that had it did to it that I have to undo.
Mm.
Kind of,
Oh, it's
kind of like when somebody comes to you and they've been working previously with a financial planner and you got to undo, or at least you have to undo all the bad habits that were created by that other advisor. Not that all advisors are bad. I'm just saying that sometimes you've got to undo the habits that these old advisors have created, don't you?
sometimes. Yeah. That's it's unfortunate, but sometimes that's the case. Yeah,
Mar-
and it's but to your point about like going back to the Airstream, not very many people, I'm guessing, would really enjoy that, but you do because we all have different perspectives, right? So our my definition of retirement, my definition of what's fun, different than yours, right?
Well,
And
it goes to say, I'm trying to build my best life over here at 59 and a half, almost 60 years old, and I'm excited to kind of ramp into that I want to slow down phase of my life and career rather than the other way around, which is really ramping up in the accumulation phase. While I'm still accumulating right now, I do see like the horizon, and part of the horizon is working on my old machines. I got a 65 Mustang, a 67 F-250, the 77 vintage Airstream, and I'm sure there's more stuff that's in my future.
yeah, that sounds like fun. See, I agree. I think that would be fun, but a lot of people are like, yeah, no, I don't want to do that.
Refinish some furniture, fix up some stuff around the house. Some people's idea, my idea of fun in retirement and relaxation in retirement is definitely not sitting on a beach chair at your local Atlantic or Pacific Ocean stop. But that's just
Yeah.
me.
Now, let me ask you a question though, Doug. This is
Yeah,
this is this is a question that'll lead us into the days though.
cool.
So if you're headed into that where you would just like to slow down a little bit, and you had something that went wrong, say with the Airstream, and it was a major concern to you, can I afford to fix it? That would not be a peaceful retirement, would it? That wouldn't.
No, it totally wouldn't be. You want to know, you want to understand what's happening. I know you're going somewhere with this, and I'm really curious where you're going. I'm in. I'm interested. You've won me over. You
Well,
pulled me
like,
in.
my point is that as we head into especially retirement, I mean, it's nice to have that peace of mind
Hmm.
that if I get a flat tire, if I have something that happens, yeah, it's a pain and I got to deal with it, but that's just part of life. But if I truly can't afford it, if I haven't planned well for that, potential expense, or if I have to say liquidate
Mm,
some of my securities, which might be on a downturn, like in say 2022, 2008,
hmm.
year 2000, those type of things. Well, that might not be so peaceful if I know I'm no longer making my regular paycheck.
Agreed.
So
Agreed. Especially the major things. The minor things, you can kind of still work with, but if there's a major system, it's either going to have to just sit and I won't be able to make that expense, or I don't know what I would possibly do. Or I'd have to get rid of it.
yeah, right, which you don't want to do either, right?
No, absolutely not. Well, so tell me, as I want to build my best life, right now we're at 2024, and unless you want to have it, you have another, are you heading to another point for
No,
that?
no, this
All
is
right.
this is good. Yeah.
Because that's a good lead in. Like today, I'm looking at the stock market. We're in March of or April of 2024, and the stock market from the beginning of the year has been doing amazingly well. But you can't always count on that. I look at it, I'm not taking it out. It's just a paper gain right now. But I do like the idea of my portfolio when I look at it, which is very rare. But when I do look at it, I do like to see it in the uptrend as opposed to the downward trend. So how do we tell me, how do we adjust, and how do we mentally put ourselves in the right position to be prepared for the next down that's gonna happen?
Yeah, that's the thing. It always feels like the market should always go in an upward trajectory, right? We should always, that's the way we want to see it. And if you can train your brain, so to speak, to enjoy the downtimes, and the only way you can do that is if you've planned really, really well,
Hmm.
so that when the market is headed down, you're comfortable, you're at peace that you've made adjustments while the market was going up. This is a very counterintuitive thing that
Hmm.
most people struggle with, even a lot of financial advisors. And there are specific actions that you can take in order to dial yourself in to be financially at peace.
Can I throw something in there just because I think that this is just, again, I'm going to take the common man's perspective for this on this for just a second. I've learned over the years while the market is going up, 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 it's a challenging time to buy to die. It's a challenging time to die also, but it is
That
challenging
too.
time to challenging time to buy because stock prices are generally at their highest performance. But when it goes down, I'm like, okay, well, now's a chance for me to get into the market at a bargain basement price, or at least to use is the term dollar cost averaging, use dollar cost averaging to my advantage, where I'm buying the same amount, but I'm getting more because the stock market is down. How does that relate or reflect into where we're heading?
Yeah, see, that is one of, or a piece of the strategy. It's not even quite, it's I guess a strategy, but it's right on the cusp of being a tactic.
Mm,
And the difference between a strategy and its tactic, right, is the strategy is more of a long-term, bigger picture. The tactical things that you do within that strategy are also very important to accomplish that strategy. So that dollar cost averaging, which is putting the same amount of money approximately into the markets on a regular stated basis and being disciplined about that, means that you're investing when the market's going up, but maybe more importantly, you're also investing that same
yeah.
amount as the market is headed down. And over time, you end up ahead of the game, generally speaking. So that's a little bit, that's right on the cusp between a strategy and a tactic. But I think, like, right now, and I don't want to date the podcast necessarily, but we're in 2024. The first quarter of the year was really great. Last quarter of 2023 was pretty good. And you have what they call the Mag 7 now. That's the buzzword. And those guys, those seven stocks have really driven the S&P 500. So out of 500 stocks, seven of them have really supported that whole 500 stock index over the past year. So what do you do? I get this question a lot. Like,
Hmm.
okay, shouldn't I just invest in those seven stocks then? Well, that would potentially put you at a fairly large amount of risk for your portfolio.
Throw it
But
all in the
it's,
tech.
yeah, throw it all into those seven, and
Yeah.
but it's tempting, right? It's tempting for the average individual to say, wow, they've done good for the past 12, 15, 16, 17, 18 months. That must be the only ones that matter.
Mm.
So, but there's some strategies and tactics that are easy to talk about, harder to do. And that's what we focus in on helping people do here at Guardian Rock, so that they can be in peace when things like the Airstream has an issue that you didn't expect and you need to pay for something to fix it, right?
Well, we're gonna because that has been such an amazingly high interest topic. We're actually going to dedicate an entire next episode, to just the Mag 7, and talk about Department of Justice and lawsuits and the innovation game and all of that. But for today, I want to talk about. I want to get maybe a little bit deeper into the subject matter of, hey, look, market's doing great. What can we expect maybe for the next year or 9 months or something like that? when is a good time to take profits? When is a good time to maybe just don't even touch it? When should I never even look at my when should I not look at my portfolio? I'm sometimes I get scared when it's doing so well and I'm like, oh well, I'm only at 7% and the market's at like 23%. What am I doing wrong? Or what's my advisor
Yeah.
doing wrong? All of the things, those kind of things. So let's dive into some of that stuff if we could.
Yeah, I think what you just said there is really interesting because the market is up 20 some percent. My portfolio is only up 7 or 8. I
Right.
must be doing something wrong. My financial advisor must be doing something wrong. But that would have been because those 7 stocks or that one sector of the market has been doing really, really well. Doesn't mean that your financial advisor has been doing a bad job. It means probably they've been doing a good job in terms of managing your risk. When you, I think, need to be careful and maybe ask yourself that question is when the market's up 20 some percent and you're down,
Mm,
or the market's overall up and you're down significantly. And I think what I've been seeing over the past couple of years, probably 3 years, is people will come to me and they'll be like, I realize that the market hasn't been great, but it hasn't been that bad, and my portfolio's down. Well, what is it? And almost 100% of the time, not 100%, but in the 90s% of
hmm
the time, when I look at the portfolio, they have a financial advisor that has been following what they call the 60/40 portfolio: 60% in stocks, 40% in bonds. And we're seeing it again right now where stocks and bonds are moving in the same direction.
hmm
Um, and so that does not, it used to be that they were a good hedge. Bonds would be up, stocks would be down. So that would be great. That really hasn't been the case for 15, 20 years. It's been a long time. It's very far outdated. So that's one thing. But to get into, so if the question is when should I wonder, is my financial advisor doing the right thing or not, that would be one case.
hmm
Okay. Now, what to do now, when to take profits, that was the other part of what you were saying earlier. And I think the time to take profits, and I'm not agreed with 100% on this, right? But I say the time to take profits is all the time.
Yes. The
Okay.
time to take profits is yes.
Yes, you're never going to go broke taking a profit.
Then what do
Okay.
you do with the profit though?
What do you
That's
do with the profit? So if you're constantly doing analysis, if your financial advisor is doing his or her job well, you're going to have sectors of the market, you're going to have particular securities or particular areas that you like long term that are actually down in price. At the same time, other things that you like long term are going up in price. So,
hmm
what we do here at Guardian Rock Wealth, we have a very disciplined procedure that we go through. Maybe it's a philosophy, but it's very disciplined. If something begins to get over a certain percentage of a client's portfolio, we'll begin to trim back. We'll take some of that profit because we don't, no matter how much we are in love with a
hmm
company or a sector like the Mag 7, we don't really believe that it's a healthy situation for you to get overweighted by too much in that sector. You might let it ride for a while, but have a point, be disciplined, trim that off, and then invest those proceeds into one of your other sectors or your other securities that you really like, you've done the analysis on, and long term you believe in, and you've got a good reason for that, but the price is down. That's, once you do that over time, it's somewhat similar to dollar cost averaging that we were talking
how
about
do you know
earlier.
what the right percentage is? Is it based upon your risk tolerance? Is it based upon your portfolio, your level of diversification and other things? How do you, or maybe the answer to that is yes as well.
Well, the answer to that is yes, but to give a better answer, right, is it does have to do with your risk parameters. So some people, it might be perfectly fine to have over 5% of something as a percentage of their portfolio. For other people, it may not be appropriate at all because they don't have the risk tolerance to take that type of risk. There are even some people that 10, 12% of their portfolio might be okay to have in a particular security, but I would argue not many people are really ready for that,
Mm.
particularly in growth sector and the tech sector that can move 30% within days. On an earnings report, you can see something go down 20 or 30%. And if you want that for 10 or 15% of your portfolio, that's a really painful day.
That scares the crap out of me. Every time I think about that, I think back to 2008 and just like holding my head and just saying, "Oh my God, it took me 2 years, 3 years, and some, I think maybe even more to accumulate that, you know, in that all that profit was wiped out literally in, in a 48-hour period of time." And
Right.
that was when I went to the, I'm not going to look as often as I was. If I'm looking daily, what's the difference? I mean, it's sitting in there. I'm assuming my advisor's still working for me, so it's like, okay, what am I supposed to do? So uh yeah, that was a very scary time in life. And how many times, not that 2008 happens every year, but thank God, but how often do those cycles regenerate themselves? It happens often, frequently.
It does happen often. I mean, each year you can expect that the market will probably correct at some point between 5 and 10%. Well, in a very short period of time, by the way.
Hmm.
It usually happens fairly quickly. And like in a year like we're experiencing right now, I mean, the market has run very high in the first quarter. I am letting my clients know, I'm letting everybody know here on the podcast, I would not be a bit surprised to see a 15% correction sometime before the end of the year. And that's painful.
All right. So then the question is, before we wrap up today, how do you resist the panic? And the panic sometimes could be in either direction. The hurry to get out of the market because there is a lot of profit going on, but you don't want to get out too early because maybe you'll get out at the wrong time and it still has a lot to go before it hits its ceiling. And then the other side, the panic to get out. Look, I've lost 10% in a day, or I've lost 5% in a day, or something like that. How do I resist the panic to not make a knee-jerk reaction to what the market is doing today?
I think the number one thing to do is really do have a discipline. Decide early on and keep with that discipline. So if your risk tolerance level is at, I don't want anything to be more than 5% of my portfolio, stick to that. Even though I own whatever stock you might want to own, I'm being careful here, but we'll just say, just for illustration's sake and not investment advice,
Hmm.
not recommending anybody buy anything or sell anything, but say Nvidia, which is one of those things. It's not the one that went up the most in the last year, by the way. Everybody thinks that. But just say you own Nvidia and it goes up and it's now 6% of your portfolio. You check your portfolio. You don't check it every day, right? But you check it maybe once a quarter. And you see Nvidia has gone from maybe 3.5, 3% of your portfolio to 5.5% of your portfolio. And your discipline is, I trim it at 5%. Even if you love that stock,
Hmm.
you trim it, your discipline, you trim off and at least go back down to 5% of your portfolio. And maybe you absolutely love, we'll pick another one that has not done really well and we can talk about why, but we won't on this, but say an Apple or a Tesla that's done really poorly this so far in 2024. And you put that in there because that stock price is lower, but you still like that
Hmm.
stock going forward. If you have a disciplined strategy, you keep to that discipline, you'll be able to resist the panic, because that's the worst mistake you could make, is getting all out at once or going all in at once when you suddenly think, oh, I should have been in and now I haven't, I'm going to put the whole thing to work today. Those are
Well,
the two mistakes people make all the time.
I love the idea of having an accountability coach. And an accountability coach is
Yeah.
having a guy like John Browning on your side. So, John, why don't we tee up how somebody, if they're in our listening audience, can get a hold of you so that they can figure out, exactly what do I need to do to stick with these strategies. I love strategy versus tactic, tactic versus strategy. I love that definition that you provided. So, share with our audience how they can get in touch with you, John.
The best way to get in touch with us is just to go to our website. Super easy. Guardian Rock Wealth with a TH, guardianrockwealth.com. And there's a contact us section along with all kinds of other free information out there, including past episodes of the podcast. And just reach out to us. Say, hey, can you give me a call? Or can you send me some more information, whatever. We're not hard sellers here, and we'll talk to anybody no matter where they are on their financial journey. Or you text the life, pick up your cell phone, dial, in the texting, go 321-421-5213, type in the word life, and send it, and you will get my digital business card with all kinds of links, including a link directly to my calendar.
All right. Well, John, thanks for sharing another week. Thanks for your expertise, and tune in again next week. We're going to have some more information on this Mag 7. I can't wait to find out more about the Mag 7. I didn't even know there was a Mag 7 until you sent me that little, hey, I want to talk about this on the upcoming podcast. So
All
I'm looking
right.
forward
Next
looking
week.
forward to that. Thanks, John.